Hey there, welcome back to the Support Ops Hangout. This is our weekly discussion that helps you deliver a better support experience to your customers. I'm your host, Chase Clemens. With us, the full panel is finally back after God knows how many different weeks we've been promising this. But everyone's here, everyone with slightly different backgrounds going on this week, which is kind of exciting if you're watching the video feed of this. So we'll start with Carolyn. How are you?
I'm really great. Thank you.
And then we've got Chase Livingston from Automatic. How are you?
Doing very well. Glad to be here.
And last but certainly not least, Jeff Vincent from Wistia, who is prepping for Wistia Fest that's coming up, which is kind of exciting, right?
Yes. Yeah, I'm super pumped. Thank you.
So this week, this is actually part two of an episode that we wanted to kind of, and I say we, I really mean Jeff. Jeff said that we're going to cycle back around to this topic, and we all said, yes, Jeff, yes, we will. So we're going to talk about empowering your team. Again, we did part one of this a little while back. I'll make sure to put a link in the show notes to part one of this. But there were some things that we felt that we left out, some questions that we didn't get answered. So we wanted to, like I mentioned, circle back around. And again, if this goes horribly wrong, this is Jeff's idea. We're good. Putting the blame on him. So yeah. So we're going to start with the idea of empowering the team in a way that you don't burn your team members out. Right? So support tends to be kind of the same things over and over throughout the week. You're answering emails, you're answering tweets, you're answering phone calls and chats and whatnot, and that can kind of get tedious. So we want to make sure that our team has something else besides just support to focus on. And one of the ways that we do that is through empowering them to do other things. So Jeff, since you kind of brought this one up, we're going to start with you. What other things does your support team do besides just support? And I say support in this like big broad sense. What else do they do besides just like answer emails?
Oh, many things. So I think there are two schools of thought on this. I think that from what I know, from what little I know, Basecamp might be on one end and Wistia might be on the other. Where for some,
I get my challenge cake ready for whatever you're about to say.
I know, right? For some companies, I think the right answer for what else does like a support person do besides like answer emails and provide support, it's like, well, they do life stuff, like maybe they mow their lawn or they hang out with their significant other, they walk their dog. Like what the company strives to do is create like a very regular work-life balance for them such that they're like really happy doing what they do, and they also get lots of time to be with, to be with their family or to do the other things in life that make them very happy. I think where we are at right now, and it's sort of a blessing and a curse, is that the people that I work with, they don't necessarily want those things yet. They don't have a lawn to mow. They don't have a husband or wife to go home to, or that or is any more available than they are. So they're just like, let's do more. Let's do more and more and more and more and more. And early on, it was like, okay, we'll just do more email. Right, we'll just open the spigot a little bit more and have more emails come in. And our customer growth quickly taught us that that wasn't a good idea. So we've been fairly underwater support-wise just by customer growth. But the other things that we do are things like, we launched a community. And one of my favorite support people, Mercer, spends a lot of her time moderating the community. Right? It's not necessarily support. It's like, how do I make my first video? And she'll jump in there. Or, we spend a lot of time doing product stuff. For anyone who made it to UserConf but didn't make it to day 2, Dave from Prezi gave a really interesting talk about how they've solved this, which was, you'd have to hear him do it because he has an accent and he's very delightful, but he was talking about how they took folks who were just doing support but were kind of burnt out, and they gave them more work. And they gave them no more pay and no new title or any of that, but they just recognized them for all the work that they were doing, and they ended up being happy. So there's these two schools of thought, and I'm trying to figure out what to do.
Yeah, that's kind of like the CEO or like the boss guy's dream, right? Like people want to come to work, want to stay at work, and want to do more work, and they don't have these kind of outside commitments or things like that. So Carolyn, with Buffer, have you like does Buffer fall into one of these two camps that Jeff was talking about?
Yeah, I think that from the sort of life stage perspective, Buffer is very similar to Wistia in that sense that the majority of the team, or everyone on the team, no, just the majority, has like doesn't own a home. Some of them have significant others, but yeah, it's all generally a very young, hungry, enthusiastic group. So yeah, they work really hard, but I think we fall somewhere in the middle because everybody at Buffer on the support team or on the happiness team does something else too, but it's very related to support. So if you were to say what do they do outside of support, I would say not much. But for example, Adam manages our bug board, which is he keeps track of all of the variety of bugs that are reported and makes the decision for the product team which bugs are the most important. And so he has a really close tie to the product team. And Orsa does the same for signals. She tracks all of the tags that we use for the different areas of the product and makes a decision about which ones need more UX attention and what particular areas are causing confusion for our customers. So, and Mary does videos, and like Patrick's sort of owning OLARC right now and live chat. So everybody has something, but it's definitely very, very connected to their jobs, and they still do a lot of email and Twitter and OLARC and that kind of thing. But almost everybody who's not in the 45-day period kind of has sort of a side project that they feel excited about. But yeah, it's all pretty connected.
Yeah, I think everyone would agree when we talk about having side projects is a good thing because email after email kind of gets old. Do you think it's a good thing for support teams to have a side project that's support related? Like what if one of your happiness heroes came to you and was like, "Hey, I really want to help out on like the design of this new tool that it's being experimented with." Is that like would that be something Buffer would take into consideration, for lack of a better word?
Yeah, for sure, and that's come up in the past. And I would say, in general, they don't have any more automatic access to that than somebody who's applying for a job in that field. Like, they are considered experts at knowing what the customers are confused by and how to help them, but they don't automatically get accepted to take on another task until they prove that they are capable. So yeah, I don't know if that answers the question, but I mean, sure, of course, if they deserve to be on that team as well.
Yeah, that's one of the things I was thinking about when Jeff was talking about how Wistia is kind of on one end and Basecamp is kind of at the other. One of the things that we do to make sure that people don't get burnt out or anything is that Basecamp has set aside a certain amount of money for us every year to just do anything that we want as far as learning goes. So, like one of our guys has got their pilot's license this year, and Basecamp helped paid for that. And like I've been learning more about how audio works and podcasting and editing and that kind of thing works, and Basecamp helped paid for that. So having something that the company says, hey, look, we want to grow you as a person and not have it directly tied back to your support job, your design job, that kind of thing, has been good. Like I've learned stuff from learning more about podcasting that helps me understand customers a little bit more in an indirect way. But that's not really like the core objective. The objective is to make you a better person. And honestly, like, we're talking about the guy that learned how to fly the plane. He's better as a person for doing that, taking a piece of metal and flying at 10,000 feet, 150 miles an hour. Like, he's just a better person for doing that. And I think it helps with making sure they don't get burnt out, making sure they feel like the company is there to give them support, help them grow their skills. So Chase, when it comes to Automatic, You're doing live chat now. Does Automatic ever say, hey, like, here's a good side project you should work on or anything?
Yeah, I mean they're kind of similar in that they encourage you to work on side projects. So a lot of folks may work on support related projects, but a lot of people, a lot of our happiness team is interested in maybe learning how to code or something like that. And so Automatic will obviously pay for like a Treehouse or a Lynda.com or a Code Academy subscription or something like that if you want to learn how to code. And there's quite a few other things that they encourage us to work on as well. So there's definitely other projects and other things that we spend our time on. So to try to help us avoid burnout as far as that goes.
Yeah, which is an interesting point. So, you have a WordPress plugin now that Automatic has given you resources to actually learn how to code in PHP and do that.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it's a good thing for companies to do that for their employees? I mean, think about it. Automatic has invested a lot of time and effort into you, into your support role, into the live chat role, and now they're teaching you how to create plugins for WordPress. I think I'd be a little afraid of, well, what if Chase Limison decides he's better at plugins and just decides to leave the company? Like, all that money they put in you is just kind of leaving with you.
I mean, I guess that's the risk they're willing to take, but I think they also hope that there's some obviously trust and loyalty built with that as well. So, as I would say that at least at this point, I'm not afraid to say that I don't plan on Automatic anytime soon, and if anything, the skills that they're allowing me to learn, I would love to put to better use within the company itself, working on some of the projects that that I'm excited about that may not be public or whatever, but that I'm excited about that are coming down the pipeline. I think I would rather do that than necessarily leave the company or something along those lines.
Yeah, I feel like it's one of those, like, if Automatic lets you leave, they probably have to kill you for what you know about what's coming down the pipeline.
Maybe so.
Just maybe a little. So, Jeff, same question over to you. If Mercer came to you and said, hey, look, I want to learn how to be a better programmer, would Wistia put time and effort into that, knowing that she might just leave for another job? But then again, you might get her as a more valuable employee. It's kind of this double-edged sword.
So we do this every day, like all the time, constantly. So everybody at the company has a Code School account and can do whatever they want. For Mercer's annual review, which was last week, she indicated that she wanted to get a little bit deeper on some of the ways that the product works. That was one of her major goals. So I got her a couple of books because she's more of a book reader than a video watcher or a class taker when it comes to learning new things. And I mean, I'm 150% into the idea that the highest level of support, to a certain extent, is product and some of this product stuff, right? It's not always necessarily building new things in the product, but it's taking on some of the things that our current customers are using and wish worked a little bit better, or always leaves them a little bit confused. And if you've built a team of people who were able to take a problem from start to finish, right, and loved dealing with customers all the time, that is a unicorn dream team for any company. If I think that that's the best way to do it, then I'm gonna see if I can't make that happen. And I just happen to have a bunch of really smart people who are already interested in that stuff when we hired them. So it's just putting some resources behind that has been no big deal. I think that you're right that, let's say they get really into some sort of esoteric programming of some kind that we don't do, and they're well, I really want to be some sort of, or I just really want to be a Python programmer, and you guys don't do anything in Python, so I guess I have to leave. That would be a bummer, but I think we're so far off from them ever having this feeling like the only way for them to move forward is to leave. That I guess it hasn't even crossed my mind. For me, it's just like you said, learning new things makes you a better person. For me, and where we're at the stage, it's even better if they can scratch their own itch support-wise by learning a new skill and then applying it to a customer problem and making that problem disappear forever. Like, that's pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, so Carolyn, do you think there is there any conflict with this? So is there any like tension between taking an employee and making them the best possible person that they can be, but knowing that if you do that, they might leave Buffer? Have you like ever thought, oh wow, we want to build this person up, but at the same time, they might leave, and that's a big investment, especially for Buffer that's still a startup, really.
Yeah, no. There's no fear. In fact, one of Joel and Leo's greatest pleasures in this world is when one of the people who they've spent an enormous amount of time investing in and teaching and leading goes and starts a new company and leaves Buffer. They've always
because that just happened, right? It was with Buffer that it was a happiness hero or a content crafter or somebody left to start their own. Sorry, I just almost fell back when I was standing up right there. But they left to start their own business, right?
Yeah, it's happened several times. In fact, the tool we use, Squiggle, is one of Buffer's old co-founders who had always wanted to build this product for us and then realized he would probably want to build it for everybody. So yeah, there's absolutely no hesitation about encouraging people to be their best selves and learning constantly. One thing that we haven't totally figured out, and this is one thing I was especially interested in hearing the answers on, which I think I have, is that we haven't totally figured out what to pay for. So we are completely 100% in support of people taking time and energy and time at work. Like Joel always says that like blogging should be a part of your workday because it makes you a better person. It makes you more successful at your job. And but if somebody wants to learn either related, they want to learn how to code in PHP or Python, or unrelated, they want to get their pilot's license. In fact, we have one Patrick's getting his pilot's license as well. And in one case or the other, or both, or neither, we're not sure. Like, there's some value in being paid well and then choosing if it's important enough to you to spend your money on it versus making it so easy. Like, oh well, like I have money, so I guess I'll like. Does it make them more invested in it or less or easier, or does it encourage it or make it more about us and less about them? And that's one that we have talked about, not a ton, but it comes up every a few times a year, and we always kick it around, and we have never come to a great conclusion about it because I think there's a lot of value in having money for something, but it's also we want it to be sort of not driven by us. So yeah, I don't know.
So
just like kick it down to the next meeting, right? It's like, kick.
As far as I know, we don't have a hard and fast rule about this. If we do, I don't know. I've probably gone on the wrong side of the rule before. But to me, the company should spend money on things that you can draw a direct line to how it improves the company's performance. That's where I stand on that, is that it makes it really cut and dry what the company should invest in. And then I think your point about, and then just make sure you pay people enough so that they can choose to go and do the personal life stuff that they really want to do. Otherwise, I think you could get into this place where one person's just like a super simple, like their life is just really simple. They're not interested in doing any crazy stuff outside of work, and they are always, I don't know, I guess I would be really nervous that then you're kind of, it's the same way as like we don't have a vacation policy, and so we have some people, especially who have families, who are like, okay, well I'm taking a lot of I'm going to take a good amount of vacation this year, like my family and I are going on a vacation, and then we have other folks who are like single, or they're like still super young and they don't have maybe enough money saved up to go on vacation, and it's like they never go on vacation. Like, never. They have never taken a vacation ever. And
are you saying this is good or not?
No,
good?
I'm not saying it's good at all, but I'm saying you can get into that scenario if the company's like, we'll pay for anything, whether it's personal or business related, where one person's like, well, I want to be a better canner. Like, I want to learn how to can strawberries. And the other person's like, I want to get my pilot's license. And the canner person gets $50 from the company to go pick strawberries, and the pilot's license person gets $3,000 to go get their pilot's license. It's like, I think, really, really difficult to create a fair system that way. I'd rather just say whatever work that you want to get better at to help the company's mission, will help you pay for that somehow, right? Because it directly impacts the company. That's just what I think. I know that Basecamp's on the other side, so I'm so ready for the opposite argument.
I would say that.
Tell me how DHH driving F1 cars helps Basecamp. Tell me.
Have you ever tried driving a car at 150 miles an hour?
Good point.
No, yes, I think there's always going to be intangible lessons that happen. Like with the guy that's taking the pilot's license, he's system admin, so does work on servers and things like that. By him learning how like a checklist works for a plane, sounds like it doesn't have any connection whatsoever, but if he brings what he learns about how checklist works and what the best methods for working through a checklist are and that kind of thing, and then brings that into how we fail over our servers, for example, like that could have an impact down the road. For us, we have a set amount of money every year, a set dollar amount, and we say if you want to use it, use it. If you don't want to use it, that's entirely fine too. And we do that with a couple of things. Like we do that with our CSAs. Like Basecamp will provide for us a community-supported agriculture box. I'm in the middle of a farm. I don't use that because I walk out my door and pick my vegetables because I'm right here. But people that are in the cities in Austin and Chicago, that kind of thing, they use that more than I do. So I think part of it like balances itself out over time. I think the big thing for us was, here's the amount of money that you've got. Use it. We trust you to use it wisely.
Can you tell how much it is?
Yeah, for us it's $1,000 a year.
Do you just get the cash if you don't use it?
So we all have American Express cards, so we just slide the card. If we don't use it, we don't get the cash. It just stays with the company.
Gotcha.
And you can use it for anything.
Yeah, anything. Well, I mean, like, don't buy a trip to space on it.
No. I mean, any learning, even if it's pilot's license or learning how to can.
Yeah, any kind of learning, because I think at the end of the day, whenever you learn a new tool, a new trade, a new anything, it makes you a better person. And sometimes you see direct correlations back to your job, so somebody that's taking a canning class might learn how to teach better just because they have a really awesome teacher that's teaching them how to can. Or it could be something more concrete, like somebody takes a lesson in like the checklist, learns how to fly and learns checklist and that kind of thing. I think the big thing is you put that opportunity out there and let people take you up on that opportunity if they want. If they don't want, Jeff, like you mentioned, there are some people that don't take vacation days. That's their choice.
That's like the cheapest marketing ever, right? If they just paid you guys $1,000 more a year, no one would care.
Right, but when we use that $1,000...
They pay everyone $1,000 more. Oh, my God. Instead, they're like, oh, no, we set up $1,000 stipend for every employee, and everyone's like, oh, my God, how do I get a job there? This is amazing.
We also pay for vacations.
Yes, we do. We pay for vacations, and in doing so, okay, so let me step back a little bit. When you put the money out there for like a monthly CSA, the learning benefit that we have, these are benefits, right? Just like you would invest in somebody's 401k, just like you would give them health insurance, dental insurance, vision, all that kind of stuff. Like you're investing in the person. This is just a different way to invest in that person. So is it marketing? Yeah, maybe at the end of the day, maybe Jason and DHH were like, oh my God, this is a brilliant marketing strategy. Maybe. I tend to think of it more of like they're just doing the right thing for their employees.
I'm going to have to agree. Like the thing is to me, like if one person wants $1,000 to get his pilot's license and one person wants $50 to learn how to can, like all I care about is that on Monday morning they show up and they're excited to tell me about what made them so happy this weekend, and then they're like in a great mental and like spiritual place to serve our customers. Like maybe it's okay that it's not fair, right? Like we
It'll
have
even itself out. You take a pilot's license this year, and the next year you might do canning or something. Since canning, do we need to learn canning? Is that what's going on?
My mom can teach you canning. My mom is good at canning. She sends me jam all the time, and it is good.
Now, one of the things I'm interested in, we're talking about vacation days and that kind of thing, because I think vacations do play a part in empowering your team. Like, you've got to have somebody that's refreshed, rejuvenated before they come to work, and if they're just burnt out, then that's no use at all. Automatic has a completely open vacation policy, right, Chase? So you just take as many days as you want?
Yeah, it's definitely. I think that's what Jeff said. Wistia did as well. So there's not really a limit or anything on days you can take, and they actually, encourage you to try and take, as many as you can. At least they encourage us to take at least 20 or 25 days a year if we can, because everybody knows that, you need some time off work. Depends on what your job is and how long you've been there and that kind of thing. But it's super easy to get burned out. So it's encouraged to make use of that open vacation policy, which is nice.
In your many days that you've been there, anybody that have you seen any abuse of it? Like people that took way too many days, or people that just thought that they shouldn't take days and only took like one or two?
Definitely haven't seen, at least as far as I can tell, I haven't seen any abuse. I think the open vacation policy in a way almost encourages the opposite. I think in some ways not taking enough days, because you feel you don't want to be that person that somebody who is thinking in the back of their mind, wow, Chase has taken a lot of days off this year. He's really taking advantage of the company and using all the days that he possibly can get. So I guess that could be a negative, but as long as everybody's on the same page, the company and the employees, I think it works out well, because we don't have to worry like, oh my goodness, I only have one personal day left this year and I need to go with my wife to a doctor's appointment or something like that. Like, it's easy to take time off and not have to worry about it.
Can I ask a question about that?
Yeah, sure.
We need like a question cake or something.
I know. I didn't want to throw up a challenge cake, but I really want to ask a question. So the last time we talked about this, which was many months ago, I loved it that my team never takes vacation. I love it that they check in every day of the weekend. I love it that they work their tails off and that they like eat turkey and then go work on Thanksgiving.
And all of us went, you have 300 people applying for open spots?
Yeah, and that's exactly what happened. Is I went from a team of 3 to a team of 8. And so now I have all these really awesome, hardworking people who I want them to take vacation. And I don't know how to encourage that. And I recognize that I don't set a great example, because I am the young single person who we just described, who finds a lot of joy in working all the time and also travels for work, so I don't necessarily always need to like take vacation to experience a new place. So my question is to Chase Livingston, who said they try to encourage you to take 20 to 25 days, and I was just curious what that looks like. Is there something they do to specifically encourage that, other than just being supportive?
No, it's mainly just gun. It's mainly just being supportive, and when you're first hired on, there's stuff to read through, and like we have like a kind of like an internal wiki and stuff to read through, and like getting acclimated with the culture of the company and things that you may not have learned when you were doing your trial. And so that's one of the things is they encourage you to take time off work, because we want to avoid burnout and all the usual stuff. But it's not like something that they track and say, oh, you haven't taken so many days off, maybe you should take some time off. Now, if a team lead, I guess, can sense somebody maybe getting burned out or something like that, they could definitely, I could see, my team lead, Andrew Spittle, who's been on here before, I could definitely see him, encouraging somebody on my team to take some time off if he felt like they needed it. So it might happen that way, but not necessarily from, a company level, just maybe from a person to person or a team lead to a happiness engineer level, something like that.
Jeff, what's Wistia do in this kind of situation? Have you ever like encouraged one of your employees to take more time off somehow?
So We're still in the place where if one person is off, we would be really in a hole. Not necessarily in a hole, but like an all hands on deck kind of situation. So Dave has been out since Wednesday of last week, and we can definitely feel it. I can feel it in like the lower productivity that I have for all the stuff that I need to get done outside the inbox. But I certainly, whenever somebody's like, hey, I've been kind of thinking about taking this trip, or hey, my girlfriend was saying we never go on this trip or whatever, I think the best thing I can say is just like go, like just put it on the calendar and get out of here. And I think that that's the best that we're gonna do. Kind of like Livingston said, like there's nothing. I don't think that there's anything else that you can do besides try to be encouraging of them taking vacation and try to be a good example. I certainly wasn't for a long time, and then I was kind of like, man, my life's kind of suffering as a result of this. Like, I haven't done all the things that make me like who I am to my friends and my family and stuff, and maybe I'm going to try to take a couple more trips, or maybe I'll try to actually learn how to plan in advance. And that's that's helped a lot. So I don't know. I really haven't figured that one out myself.
You've got a honeymoon to plan, so at least you'll have to plan vacation for that.
That's fair. That's a good point.
I think for us, and this is just speaking as me, like so Basecamp does give us vacations every year for Christmas, or has for the last couple. It's never a guarantee that it's going to continue to happen, and that's one of those. None of us were in the room when Jason and David were like, "Hey, look, let's do this for a Christmas present because I think it would be really good." So I don't know like what motivations were there, but I know for me personally, it kind of forces you to take a vacation, right? So here's, this week that, Heather and I are going to spend in Dublin at the beginning of June that Basecamp has paid for, and I don't have to worry about work at all that week. So part of it is, just being nice and generous to your employees, but at the same time, it's kind of making you take a vacation. So at least you get in 7 or 8 days of a vacation every year. Not every company can do that, but I don't know, but like Carolyn, you were asking earlier, have you seen any other ways to help encourage people to take vacation?
Wait, I have a question.
Go for it.
Okay, so you guys do the paid vacation, but you also do summer day off, summer half day off. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, we do. So it's from beginning of May through the end of September, we run summer hours, so it's 4 days a week. So like I work Monday, I'm going to be off tomorrow, and then I work Wednesday through Friday. Outside the support team, everybody tends to take like Fridays off or Mondays off, but like if we all took Fridays off on the support team, that might be a nightmare come Monday. So summer days off help with that. Like tomorrow is date day with my wife, so we're going to go out and hang out and go to the comic book shop and eat some food somewhere, and it's just a nice day off in addition to the weekend. And then we do the paid vacations. Generally, like we recommend, kind of like automatic, 20, 25 days somewhere in there every year for paid vacations. And then we get the one that for Christmas, that's the one like, hey, we're going to Dublin this year, and Basecamp's taking care of the hotel, air flight. Air flight, is that a word? Airfare. Yeah, that kind of thing. If that answers what you're looking for.
It does. And so in the summer, you just feel like you're in a hole every day because 1 or 2 people are missing?
No, so we've been running summer hours for the past month. Marissa has taken off. She's on the support team. She took off the last roughly like 2 weeks. So we were down her a person, and we were also down whoever was scheduled for that day off for that particular day. And there have been moments where it's kind of like a rush of tickets. It's kind of like in restaurants where you have like a lunch rush and a dinner rush, that kind of thing. We'll notice that happen, but it's never been like I've never got to the end of my day and been like, oh my god, this was horrible. I don't want to look at another email. And part of that's too because we've staffed up so well. So we're at 10 people now. Going to bring on another person to help out. And the time zones, everybody's in different time zones, so there's no like big backlog of cases that we have to bust through. When I get to work at the I'll take tomorrow off. When I start my work day on Wednesday morning, it won't be a full queue. It'll be like 1 or 2 cases. I love Carolyn's look there. She's like, wait,
I
1 or 2
just
cases?
can't
That's
imagine.
possible? What?
But okay, that's very helpful. Thank you.
That
Yeah,
isn't-
Carolyn, have you seen like how other companies are tackling this outside of like us?
No, my only experience with this is my last job, and you had a specific amount of vacation, and like even in the beginning when it was you only had 2 weeks, and then after several years you got 3, and then after more you got 4. But because I was counting down like 10 days, I took those 10 days every year, whereas here I have open vacation, and I basically don't do it unless I'm traveling for a specific thing, like a wedding or a whatever. But yeah, I agree. I think I agree with the sentiment expressed before. I can't remember by whom. These open policies really are tricky for the people who don't need it or can't or just don't think to. And I don't know that that's a great experience either. And I believe in treating different people differently. Like, yeah, the person who has a family who goes home to his kids is different than the person who is young and hungry and it's their first job out of college. But and maybe I could reward one of them, with a surprise babysitter night and another one with a lift ticket to a mountain. Like I'm fine with treating them differently and giving them rewards that are different. But yeah, I wonder if young and hungry turns into resentful and sad and burned out fast.
Yeah, so we were there, or I was certainly thinking about that. And hopefully this kind of brings us back to the original, like one of the original things that I wanted to talk about, which is that like the reward system, the like work super hard and then you get like this cool reward and then work super hard again, that feels like it only like makes you go faster and faster and faster towards burnout. Because like you always have to like outwork yourself a little bit to feel like you're going to get a reward that's as good or better as you got before. And we certainly went there where we were like, oh, like what's a creative thing we could do for this person? What's a creative thing we could do for that person? Like, because they've been working so hard. And I think what we figured out was that it just wasn't. It wasn't. Not only was it not sustainable on the creativity part, but it also like made people fall into this cycle of like, oh, I work super hard, like superhumanly hard, and then I get something cool. And they would go through these cycles that like clearly led to burnout. And so it came down to just like define the job better, pay people better, pay people what their job was worth, give them like the opportunity to learn the skills that they want to learn, like to scratch their own itch and solve their own problems, so that they can avoid what are like some of the worst things, which is like asking other people for help or like banging your head up against a wall because you feel like you can't figure out how to make this problem better. And then make sure you're giving them ownership over hard problems, which I learned like most explicitly from Sonia at GitHub, where they do something similar to what Carolyn, you were talking about, where each person on the team has this little area of ownership that's like theirs, and other team members might come to them and be like, oh, I have a great idea for a video, and they know like who to go to. So you challenge them with really hard problems, then you give them ownership over them, and it's like, I don't know, it doesn't sound very startup-y, it doesn't sound very like, base campy, but I think that it ends up being like, I don't know, maybe like the traditional work people are right. Maybe that's just how you're supposed to do it. I don't know.
I think at the end of the day, you've got to figure out what works for your team. What works for Basecamp won't work for Automatic, won't work for Buffer, won't work for Wistia, won't work for GitHub, won't work for everybody else out there, right? Just like you've got individual people on your team that their needs need to be accounted for, and you need to reward and treat them and everything else differently. that's the same way with companies. It's just because it works for us doesn't mean it's going to work for anybody else. Okay, lots of noddings of heads and everything. Everyone listening to the podcast was like, wait a second, why did it go quiet?
Anytime you play the everybody's different, man card, like, it's hard for me not to be like, everyone's the same, Chase, you're wrong.
Yeah, I do think that there are things that you can try. Like we've been talking about open vacation days and that kind of thing, and maybe the pendulum swings too far sometimes, where we say, hey, look, just here they are, take them when you need them. Maybe you need somebody that's kind of watching over a calendar and saying, hey, look, you haven't taken a vacation in like 2 years. You really need to. Like, here, let me help you plan something out. So yeah, it's
full time who plans those vacations. Who is that person?
A little bit of Google and this amazing woman named Andrea. Andrea's our office admin, our amazing. I don't know exactly what her job title is, but basically she's the awesome woman that makes sure like everything is handled. Like any problem I have, I just go to her and be like, Andrea, something's wrong, help me. Okay. So yeah. She takes care of, like with the vacations, for example, she took care of recommending, and okay, so she typically takes care of recommending, here's a good place to stay. I looked through the flights, here's the ones with the best deals that we can get you. You might want to look at a car rental, here's something that we can do. But you can also go to her and say, hey, look, here's exactly what I want, A, B, and C, can you just book this for me? So it's a little bit of both that she does. This was something I was talking about with Marissa the other day. I think having a person that knows what they're doing when it comes to vacations, like it sounds so dumb, but if you go to Disney World, don't you want somebody that's like been to Disney World that can tell you, here's where you want to stay, here's the places you want to eat, here's the things that you need to think about? Like you want that. It's not all about like just going on Expedia and finding a flight and a hotel. It's you want to know, you want somebody that can help you through that. So, like at my last job, that was one of the reasons like I rarely took vacation. It was like, all right, well, I've got to plan this big thing, and I don't want to do that. That's a lot of like mental power on something that I'm just trying to take a break, if any of that makes sense.
Yeah. Thank you.
Carolyn's like, yes, I need to find somebody to plan vacations.
I know. Well, yeah, we kind of have that in Leo in that we go on retreats to amazing places, so they're not vacations. We work very hard during them, but it is experiencing a new place and having something planned for you, including the flight and I don't know, just thinking about all that. I was just curious how that all works.
How do retreats work for someone who's like married?
They come alone. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, like you were in Cape Town for a long time.
Yeah, that was a conversation that we had many days in a row on retreat before and since, is how it works with families. And we have discussed that at length because 3 times a year for a week and a half to 2 weeks is really hard to leave if you have kids or if your wife is pregnant or whatever. Both
or
of
if you're
those
a hermit like I am.
Oh,
yeah,
you're a hermit. Yeah, we have had one person choose not to join a retreat, and that turned because it was his son's first birthday, and he wasn't like punished or anything. Like, of course, it's optional, but he ended up leaving shortly after that anyway. I don't think he was super really in yet in his heart, and so. Yeah, we haven't figured that one out either, and we talk about it every week practically in our meeting. Because it's do we pay for childcare but that's not really the same as having daddy home. Like, I don't know, it's so complicated. We think about this a lot.
Can I just ask the obvious question? That's probably a super jerk thing to ask.
Sure.
This is mostly for Carolyn and Chase, but if Livingston, you have any input on this, like, is this driven by like the founders want something and they don't want to give something up, so they just like provide these benefits to make sure that they can still have something without feeling guilty?
I'm nodding.
Not as a
Yeah,
negative thing. I don't mean that as a negative attack on anybody, but like, is that how these things start? Right? Is like, well, we've always had this, and we think everybody should have this, so we'll just keep doing it.
yeah. I'm nodding because I mean that, yes, in the non-negative way.
Yeah, I
Like
don't mean it
like
as a negative thing.
yeah,
I think it's a question that has to be asked. Like, if you go to a company that doesn't have this as part of their culture, it can never be part of their culture because like it needs the founders to say like, we're gonna keep doing this forever.
yeah. I mean, for us, travel was part of Joel and Leo's first few years at Buffer. They got kicked out of the U.S. for immigration issues, so they went to Hong Kong and they went to Israel and they went to Spain before that, and they really love to travel, and yeah, they think it's for themselves. They think it's great to be able to travel, and on a bigger scale, they believe in sort of the non-deferred life plan, which is that like a lot of people who work really hard think like, oh, I'll work really hard now, and then when I retire, someday I'll have all this money and all this time, and I'll go traveling then. And they sort of don't believe in that, and they think you should live now and experience the things that you want to experience now. And for them and the general type of people that Buffer attracts, that's travel. But it is tough for somebody who doesn't get as excited about that or has things that hold them at home, like families or a sick parent or their own fear or illness or whatever it is. And yeah, it's we haven't really figured out how that will work yet.
So hermits and dads, no need apply. And
Yeah,
mom.
and that's the other thing we thought about is like, are we creating this culture that sort of limits the pool to single people, because that's terrible. Like we don't that will not only is that just not fun, but it will limit us if we don't have a diverse group of people with diverse experiences and diverse ages and backgrounds. And yeah, it's another
Yeah,
thing to think about a
I'd
lot.
say that's one of the reasons why we cut back because we did have meetups 4 times a year, and then we cut them back to three. Like when I joined, there were 3 times a year for a week, so that's automatically basically like a twelfth of my year spent in Chicago, basically. And then this year we decided to scale back, and we're doing two. So it's 1 week still for the meetups, Monday through Thursday, and kind of Thursday and Friday are optional. If you want to stay around, you can. You don't have to. And that's twice a year. So that's more than enough for me. Like I said, I'm a hermit. I like my farm. I don't want to like jet set to Israel or anything like that. That's not who I am. And it's one of those where we thought that when you take people away from their spouses, their families, their whatever's going on at their house for a long period of time throughout the year, that tends to be more disruptive than anything else. And we don't want that's the joy of remote working is that you don't have to conform to this like everybody come to one location kind of thing. So that's kind of why we did that. And then talking about like other like benefits that the founders have given to the rest of the team. Like our Christmas vacations only recently started happening like in the last 2 or 3 years. That's not something that was there in the beginning. It was something that Jason and David were like, hey, this is something that we want to do. And so we've picked that up and started doing that. And by no means is that it's going to happen every year. Like every Christmas, the week before you're waiting for the package that is okay, what did we get for Christmas this year? Did we get anything? So it's still very much a gift rather than a benefit.
Gotcha.
I want to hear from Livingston on that one too.
I mean, I guess I'm probably a little bit of a hermit like Chase. But
Hermits unite.
That's right. I don't know that I want to consider myself a hermit because I do enjoy travel, but then again, I don't enjoy being away from my wife for extended periods of time. At Automatic, we do one all-company kind of meetup every year, but then we have smaller, team or interest-based meetups. So we do, maybe 2 or 3 of those, depending on how many you want to attend. You don't have to attend that many, but if you want to do, two, like most people do, at least 2 others a year. So that makes it kind of 3 getting together with some of your colleagues, and then we can also go to other conferences or like word camps and stuff like that. So the travel kind of requirements at Automatic are kind of left up to you. Like there are some people who speak at WordCamps, and they travel, like almost every weekend somewhere, and that's totally fine. Like they encourage that, and then there are people maybe more towards my side who do the 2 or 3 meetups, the all company thing, and then maybe they I'll drive to a WordCamp, but I'll take my wife along with me or something like that. Like I did this past weekend, we went down to Charleston for the weekend to celebrate our anniversary, and I also did the WordCamp while we were down there. So it's kind of cool to be able to wrap up a family trip into something like that. But I definitely don't travel near as much as probably not nearly as much as Buffer does, and not even nearly as much as some of the jet setters at Automatic do.
I really like thinking of Carolyn as a jet setter now, so that's gonna happen.
I accept.
Yeah. So Jeff, did that kind of answer what you were looking for?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't. It's a very tough question, I know, and there's probably no really clear answer, but I can't help but notice how like so many of these reflect what the founders were doing before they started the company, right? And I just happen to have more intimate knowledge of like Buffer's background than I do probably of most other companies because of their transparency, and because I like Joel's writing and I enjoy it. But I think that sometimes you just have to say, like, hey, I want to start this company, but I don't want to give up this practice, so we're all doing it.
Isn't that kind of doesn't most culture come from that, too? I mean,
no, I think that that's true, but I think that if let's say, like, I was number, 5, and I don't think that I could have been like, hey, everybody, we're taking... we're doing trips every year together. Like, I think it's one of those things that has to be, you have to make a very early decision that, like, there are major chunks of resources that are going to go towards these trips.
Agree.
I don't think that anybody could start that. Anyway.
Agree.
Jeff, they say that every team is a little different. And what works for one...
I'm about to just start the drum roll.
Go for it. Just go.
I think
we're at an
time
hour.
for the
We
drum.
need to go.
God's your blast.
It's this week's shoutouts. These are the things that are making us happy, so happy that we want to jet set around the world to a different country and tell you about them. That's how happy we are. Yeah, sorry, it's an hour for this show. I'm sorry, guys. We try to keep these short, but sometimes we just get on a roll and start talking. So, shout-outs. Jeff, what are you shouting out this week?
My shout-out this week is to a book called Search Inside Yourself, which is based on a class at Google that is run by a delightful man named Meng, M-E-N-G, and his official title is a Jolly Good Fellow at Google. Yeah, right? It's awesome. Look for I think he did a TED Talk, and he also did a talks at Google, so you can get a little taste of it. But basically, it's about how emotional intelligence can make us better employees and actually make us more successful, and then ultimately, hopefully, lead to world peace. So check out the book. It's very, very interesting.
Chase Livingston, what are you shouting out this week?
I'm going to shout out my awesome new microphone, the Blue Yeti that I've got. I hope I sound very nice on the podcast this week, so I'm really enjoying playing with it.
Silky smooth like a late-night DJ.
That's right.
And Carolyn.
He didn't need a new microphone for that. He always sounds so smooth.
I'm even silky smoother.
Carolyn, what are you shouting out this week?
I'm shouting out Peak, and I'm starting to lose track. Some of my shout-outs sound familiar to me, and I'm not sure if somebody else has ever shouted this out, but it's this little like free side project thing that is run by, I think the company is just called User Testing. Maybe it's more formal than that, but the idea is that you can go to this site and just type in your company address URL, and some person will go to your site and like talk through their experience as they try to understand what it is you're selling. Would they sign up? Yes, no. And it's obviously designed to like get you hooked on this so that you'll pay for their real product, but it's also really great. You can do 3 a month for free, and it's really interesting and really painful. And I couldn't recommend it more. Having somebody be like, I think they're kind of like Hootsuite, but like I can't tell how much it costs, and like what? And then they went to the FAQ, which it never occurred to me that a non-customer would go to the FAQ to find out more. It's like so geared toward customers, and it's so geared toward people who are sitting in their dashboard. And so the whole thing was very eye-opening, and I definitely recommend doing that very frequently, or at least once. It's called Peak.
I feel like there were lots of face palms on the day that Buffer watched these Peak videos.
Yeah, it hurts. It hurts. Get ready for it to hurt. But it's so useful.
So search inside yourself, the Yeti mic, Peak. For mine, I'm going in the complete opposite direction and just saying, hey, look, Scandal Season 3 came out on Netflix this weekend. If you want a good binge watch, then this is your show. Yep, I am a Scandal fan. Marissa Dawson turned me on to it. And I don't know, it's just a good show. It's a good show. So go watch that or something else on Netflix. Like, take a day to yourself and just like binge watch something, because it I don't know, it's refreshing at the end of the day. Jeff, why are you gonna make fun of my picks?
I'm not making fun of your picks, but I love thinking that you're a hermit that loves Scandal.
And also West Wing and House of Cards, and I make good use of Netflix.
Oh, there's so many good things on that. I've never watched Scandal, so I can't really say for sure, but the image, I'm always like, this is like one of those like, what are those called? Soap operas.
It kinda is. It is ABC after all. So, but yeah, I got this new little Chromecast device. So like on my iPad, I just flick it and it like automatically shows up on my TV. It's the greatest thing in the world.
Wow, that is kind of cool.
Yeah. So yeah, that's it. This episode's in the books. We have went for an hour now, so we're gonna stop talking and let you go. Show notes are up, supportops.co/hangouts, and if you got questions for us or anything else, email addresses and all are in the show notes as well. Other than that, I'm Chase. Have an awesome week.